Thanks so much for watching today's episode of the Michigan Football Report. We are ranking the strength of Michigan's position groups. But do note, as you see all these videos coming out as we lead up to the season, we filmed this edition before Andrew Stueber's injury. So you see us talking about Stueber in the video. Just relax for a second. We know Jalen Mayfield is going to be the starting right tackle. So it's filmed the day before Stueber's injury. So apologies. Didn't have a producer ready to go refilm the entire thing, but still wanted to put this video in you guys' hands and let you know what I think are the strongest and weakest positions on Michigan football team for the 2019 season. All right, you know that. Let's get to watching the video. Wide receivers is our number one position group for the 2019 Michigan football program. And this might be the best group of wide receivers in well over a decade, going back maybe to 2016 with Breston, with Adrian Arrington, and with Mario Manningham. 2004 had Avant and Breston and Braylon Edwards, same with 2003. But Nico Collins is the guy I think will lead the team in yards, maybe touchdowns. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones will be your main guy for number of catches, your volume guy. Not sure what to expect out of Tariq Black at this time. If he's able to be healthy, like we hope he is, and be back to the player he was in 2017, he might get more of those snaps on the outside, move down to Peoples-Jones sometimes on the inside, and then Mike Sainristil, the slot position, also will take some snaps out of the backfield from time to time as a kind of hybrid running back, I've been told. Here are our returning receiving leaders from last year. Not bad, folks. Not bad at all for a couple of sophomores in DPJ and Nico Collins. Sean McCune, big drop-off, at least on the returning from a reception standpoint. But I am projecting some big-time stats from at least two wide receivers on this team this year, Nico Collins and Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think Nico Collins will lead the team with almost 1,200 yards receiving. DPJ a little less because he's going to get some of those bubble screens. He's going to get some of those 4 or 5 yard underneath routes. Big drop off for Tariq Black. Look, I think Black could be a 1,000-yard receiver, maybe, but he has been too inconsistent from an injury perspective. Came back last year, Michigan State game, got a snap or two, and then really didn't do anything down the stretch of the year. So that's the wide receiver staff predictions. Wide receiver group number one on my list. Number two is the offensive line, and praise to the heavens that this is finally not one of the worst positions on the team for the first time in a long time. They proved last year all the success they could have. Some guys really stepped it up, like Lil John Runyon, who became an all-Big Ten player. Ben Bredesen, multi-year starter. This will be his 4th year starting. Cesar Ruiz started most of 17, all of 18, and will start again in 2019. And true junior Michael Onwenu started last year and got some playing time in 17. So I've got 10 position groups. We're ranking 1 through 10 today on this thing. I need you guys to give me a go blue in the comments. I'm feeling we're excited for football season, but you got to let me know in the comments, because if we can get maybe 100 of you guys to say go blue, I'll start doing 5-6 shows a week instead of the 2 or 3 we're doing right now. Go blue below. I'm going to check back in later. If you give me about 100 of them, we'll start doing more shows. Number 3 on the list, quarterback. This could be number 1 by the end of the year, right? Shea Patterson certainly was a fish out of water last year in a pro-style offense, taking half the snaps, or around half the snaps potentially, under center at his first-year quarterback at Michigan after being shotgun basically his entire career as a quarterback. Ole Miss 16, Ole Miss 2017, and then in high school, IMG Academy as a high school quarterback in 2015. He's going to start, folks. Don't believe any of this. I haven't decided on my quarterback. I don't know what's going to happen here, but Dylan McCaffrey will get likely in every game. I think he'll get some, some quarterback draws, some rollouts, but no more than 5 or 6 snaps per game. Not going to take away from Shea Patterson being the quarterback. Pretty good year last year, not record-setting, kind of underwhelming based on, these are kind of the numbers he put up through 6.5 games at at Ole Miss in 2017 as a sophomore before he got hurt. But I'm expecting a big year from him this year. Expecting Michigan to pass a lot more. 400 passing attempts, 3,400 yards, 34 touchdowns. The yards and touchdowns would be school records. As surprising as that may be to some of you, where schools are throwing for 48, 50 touchdowns and 4,900 yards, etc. Michigan's record for passing yards is somewhere around 3,100 yards. Touchdowns is 25. So I think Shea Patterson will break those out of the water. Under new offensive coordinator Josh Gaddis, expect a big uptick in plays per game, aggressiveness, and not sitting on the ball as we get late into games with potential 2-score leads like we have known Michigan's been known to do basically forever. So I'm expecting huge numbers, 45 points per game, and the biggest outlier there, 300 yards passing per game. I think Michigan will use the short passing game to supplement a weak running attack, especially later in games when normally Michigan would run maybe 10 straight times. But question we put on the show last week, got a ton of response. I was surprised how many of you voted for Jake Rudock in this, but who's the best quarterback of the Harbaugh era? Don't project forward. Don't say it's going to be Shea after this year. I'm talking about what they've done on the field. Will and Spate, 16 starts or something like that. Rudock, all of 15. Shea, all of 18. And then, you got a piecemeal 17 between Brandon Peters and John O'Corn. Let me know. Type their initials below. SP for Shea Patterson. WS for Will and Spate. JR for Jake Rudock. Number 4 on our list, top 10 position groups, or ranking the 10 position groups in Michigan football. The kicker and the punter. We've got Will Hart. We've got Jake Moody, who came in and started the last 3 games, set a Michigan football record, 6 field goals in a single game. Those are your starters. Quinn Nordin, despite what Greg Henson, Greg with 3 Gs, this guy who's 57 years old, living in his great-grandma's basement with a goatee in 2019, Quinn Nordin is still on the team despite fake news Greg saying multiple times he was kicked off in the spring. Very fake news on that one. Quinn's on the team. Maybe he'll leave if he loses the job to Moody. I think Moody, after a nice freshman year last year, starting the last 3 games, will take the tape. You see Moody came in 10 of 11 for 91% field goal percentage when Quinn Nordin really struggled in a few games last year. Both of them hit their extra points. I think Nordin's got a bigger leg for sure. After starting 10 games, he had more points than Moody. But nevertheless, I think Jake Moody's going to be your guy, more consistent, and I think is a better team guy than Nordin. Take that for what you will. Next up on the list, number 5, the secondary. This would have probably been 2 or 3 had Ambry Thomas not come down with colitis, which is an ulcer on your colon. I'm just going to break this news out to you. I am not expecting Ambry Thomas to be back on this team this year. Maybe he comes back in a few weeks, but he's not even in the gym right now. He's not even on the field at all, so I don't expect him to be back. He might sit out the entire year, may take as a red shirt, which still have 2 years of eligibility. If he is out, I am thinking what I've heard this year on Michigan's defense so far in camp, you're going to see 5 DBs on the field almost all the time, and this is what I think it's going to look like. Lavert Hill, All-American third team last year. Josh Metellus at safety, strong safety. Dax Hill I've got projected to start at free safety because I think Brad Hawkins is really performing at that nickel role kind of on the inside. Vincent Gray, not too many people are familiar with him as they maybe should be because he's going to be your starting cornerback out there opposite Lavert Hill. So that is my secondary depth chart on this one. Without Ambry Thomas, that is the 5th best position group for Michigan football. Next up, linebacker. Lost Devin Bush, right? So you're losing maybe your best linebacker in a generation for Michigan football. But you've got Josh Ross coming back. You've got Devin Gill coming back, but I think he's going to lose his starting role to Cam McGrone. KHALEKE HUDSON, technically a linebacker, although he came into Michigan maybe as a guy in the secondary, but he plays that viper role like Jabril Peppers did. Josh Uche, some people say he's a defensive end. No, he's technically a linebacker, but it's a blitzing linebacker. It's a rushing linebacker at all time. And McGrone, I think he's going to beat out Devin Gill for the will spot. Take a look at KHALEKE HUDSON's numbers. 2017, second half of the year, broke out. 16 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 77 tackles, on the season. Really broke out, I believe it was that Maryland game or Minnesota, wherever that game was, where he had something like 7 or 8 tackles for loss. Numbers almost in half last year, so really took a step back, was overshadowed, didn't maybe get as many opportunities as he should have, but I expect a big year from him coming up in 2019, hopefully getting back to those 2017 numbers. Michigan had a decent year rushing the quarterback last year, but 3 of those guys are gone. The 3 in the middle, Winovich, Bush, Gary, Josh Uche in a backup role, 7 sacks though, led the team. I feel like every time he came into the game, he was causing havoc for the quarterback. He'll be back. Those next 3 guys gone. Michael Dwumfor. So Michigan losing a lot of production in rushing the quarterback. Defensive line. I don't think it's a weak position, but you lose Rashawn Gary, you lose Chase Winovich, folks. You lose Aubrey Solomon, another starter who transferred to Tennessee. You're going to take a big step back. Now, a lot of these guys have produced and are getting talked about strongly in the media in this early fall camp chatter, but Aiden Hutchinson is the one I am highlighting as potentially the breakout player here, and a bunch of guys other than Michael Dwumfor for that have been backups throughout their career. Carlo Kemp, Dwumfor coming back for starting for the second year, and then Kwity Paye. Jim Harbaugh has spoken very highly of. You've got a couple freshmen there, Hinton and Smith, in your two deep on defensive end and nose tackle. Take a look at Ben Mason, though, guy I think can make some noise at that defensive tackle position. And then Mike Donna from Central Michigan, the Pro Football Focus first-team All-American, going to make some noise at the defensive end position. On a defense, under Don Brown, that has consistently been in the top 10, top 15 in all of the big-time stats. You see there, points per game, 12th in the country last year, number 2 way back in 2016. Yards per game is where they've really excelled. Number 2 last year after being number 1 for almost the entire year, but you get crushed by Ohio State. Florida, you drop back to number 2, number 3 in 17, and tied for first with Alabama in 2016. 8th on my list, kickoff and punt returners. This is one that would have been much higher. Ambry Thomas being out, returned that kickoff for a touchdown against Notre Dame last year. He's not going to be in there at least to start the year, at least probably for the first few games, if not the entire season. So we're going to see some new faces back there as kick returners. I've got Brad Hawkins, got some action there last year, of course, and then Ronnie Bell also saw time as your kick returner 1, kick returner 2. These things could change, folks. This isn't a definitive list as of now. A lot of time left in fall camp and see who performs when the bright lights are on. Giles Jackson, Mike Sainer still the freshman wide receivers as their backups, and then Donovan Peoples-Jones returning his 3rd year as Michigan's punt returner. 2 touchdowns on his career last year. Really nice year. 1 touchdown return against Nebraska, I believe it was, but averaged about 10 yards per punt. One of the more reliable punt returns Michigan's had in the post-Lloyd Carr era. Guys, if you saw me on Instagram, if you were following yesterday, thank you for doing so. And because you did, you saw my Ask Me Anything, a deep look into Michigan football. And you noticed last week we had Midge Album, noted Michigan legendary journalist, our new co-host, because we made it to 1,500. He gets to 2,000. We're about 1,700 or so right now. We have another big-time announcement for you. So you're missing out on awesome content if you're not following me, and you're just delaying the inevitable until we have another big-time announcement in the show. You want more of Midge Album? Get us to 2,000 at Michigan Football Report on Instagram. Number 9 on my list, tight end. The tight end position, and then our number 10 coming up here, is the most fake news out there during fall camp right now. I don't know why, maybe because he's a senior leader, whatever it is, but Sean McCune is getting so much hype from the Michigan coaching staff, and the blog boys are just buying into it and not deciphering coach speak versus reality. I don't think Sean McCune is a good player. I don't think he's going to be very good this coming season. I think Nick Eubanks will be your starter at tight end. And as such, I'm putting him number 1 in my depth chart. Had 10 catches last year, but has really battled injuries for the past 2 seasons, has Eubanks. If he was healthy, this could be a higher up on the roll, Nick Eubanks. If he was healthy, I think he could be a potential All-Big Ten performer for Michigan. Saw what he could do in the Florida game a couple years ago. I think he can do it now. The only question out there is he as healthy as he was in 2017 when he was a deep downfield threat in the first few games before getting injured? All right, we've got our last position coming up. I'm going to break it out to you. It's running back. I think it's the weakest position on the team as of now until Zach Charbonnet kind of gets his groove as a true freshman. But I want to know from you guys, who is Michigan's best running back since 2000? I included 2000 as the cutoff because that's the last year for Anthony Thomas. So from there, you've got Anthony Thomas. You, of course, have Chris Perry, the Doak Walk Award winner. Four-year starter, Mike Carr. A bunch of piecemeal guys, maybe Fitzgerald Toussaint, you could say, was a decent player. And then you kind of pop forward and you've got Karan Higdon after a few years of not really having many good running backs at all. You could say Davion Smith, whatever in there. Who is Michigan's best running back since 2000? Answer below in the comments. I'm going to give you my answer here after we're done filming this. I'll get in the comments, give you my opinion. Want to know from you guys before we do, because that is the weakest position on Michigan's football team this year. Jim Harbaugh said True Wilson was the starter at Big Ten Media Day. I think that's one of those coach speak things. I don't really buy into that much. Against Middle Tennessee State, August 31st, I think Christian Turner will get the first snaps because, putting a true freshman in there for first snaps, I'm not sure if Jim Harbaugh has the stomach for it. But by midseason, I believe it will be Zach Charbonnet. And by the end of the year, the man in the number 24 jersey there will be your starter. Certainly by the Ohio State game. I think 3, 4, 5 games into the season, he will be your starter. True Wilson's going to get snaps. Don't get me wrong, folks. he certainly will get snaps, but I don't necessarily think it will be, when the game's in the line or early in the game. I think it's going to be Turner and Zach Charbonnet. Here's my stat predictions at this position. 700 yards for Turner. I think he's going to get the bulk of the carries for the first few games, and so as such will lead in yards. Charbonnet will come on late. If he really comes on, you can see more than 650, but that's what I've got him at. True Wilson. It's going to be a very democratic offering. No one's going to be stealing all the snaps this year at the running back position, but that's my projections now. I think Charbonnet will get the bulk of those 650 in the second half of the year once he becomes the full-time starter. And you, thanks so much for watching the Michigan Football Report. I've got more videos for you right here and right here. And if you haven't yet, we've got a little over 2 weeks, folks. I need 1,500 of you to hit this button to subscribe. Go Blue.